what raising children was like 100,000 years ago. Your child is crying. It's the middle of the night. You're exhausted in a way that feels ancient, a tiredness that sits in your bones, not just your eyes. You pick them up. You hold them close. You wonder, not for the first time, how anyone has ever done this. The answer is, not alone. For almost the entire span of human history, no one raised children alone. The idea that two parents, isolated inside a house, are sufficient for raising a child is one of the strangest experiments in the history of our species. And the evidence suggests it is not going very well. 100,000 years ago, your child would have been born into a world without hospitals, without formula, without pediatricians, without car seats, without any of the infrastructure modern parents take for granted. And yet, children survived. They grew. They learned to hunt, to forage, to read the sky and the landscape, to speak, to sing, to tell stories around fires that burned long into the night. How did they do it? Start with birth itself. For most of human prehistory, birth was a communal event. Anthropologist Wenda Trevethan, who has spent decades studying the evolution of human childbirth, argues that humans evolved to give birth with assistance, unlike most other primates. The shape of the human pelvis and the size of the infant brain make unassisted birth genuinely dangerous. This is not a design flaw. It is an evolutionary pressure toward cooperation. The body itself demands that women help other women give birth. Midwifery, in some form, is almost certainly one of the oldest professions in human history. What came immediately after birth is also striking. A newborn ancient human was almost never set down. Research by anthropologist James McKenna at the University of Notre Dame on mother-infant co-sleeping reveals that the human infant nervous system is calibrated to expect constant physical contact. Breathing regulation, heart rate, body temperature, cortisol levels, all of these are partially regulated by the presence of a caregiver's body. The infant who sleeps alone is, from the body's evolutionary perspective, an infant who has been abandoned. The anxiety modern parents feel when their baby cries is not weakness. It is the correct response to an ancient signal. Ancient infants were carried, not in prams or bouncers, but against the body, skin to skin, for most of the first years of their lives. Archaeological evidence supports this. Wear patterns on the hip bones of adult female skeletons from ancient sites suggest habitual carrying loads at the hip. Skeletal remains of infants show the kind of robust bone development consistent with frequent movement and stimulation. The child was never passive. It was always part of the world, watching, absorbing, held close to the heartbeat it knew before it was born. Breastfeeding extended far longer than in modern contexts. Analysis of isotopes in ancient teeth, a technique pioneered by researchers including Christine Austin at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai, allows scientists to detect when weaning occurred by tracking changes in chemical signatures. Studies of ancient hominin teeth suggest nursing commonly continued for 3 to 5 years. This is not unusual in primates. It is unusual only against the backdrop of modern industrial culture, where early weaning is economically driven and formula is available. For ancient mothers, extended nursing was also a natural contraceptive, spacing births roughly 4 years apart, which shaped the entire structure of ancient family life. But the mother was not the only caregiver. This is the single most important fact about ancient childhood that modern parents are missing. Anthropologist Sarah Hrdy, in her landmark work on cooperative breeding in humans, argues that Homo sapiens evolved as what she calls cooperative breeders. The care of children was distributed across an entire social group. Grandmothers were especially critical. The grandmother hypothesis, developed by anthropologist Kristen Hawkes at the University of Utah, proposes that the human female lifespan extends well past reproductive age, precisely because grandmothers provide an enormous survival advantage to grandchildren. A grandmother who gathers food, carries infants, tells stories, passes on knowledge, and watches over toddlers while mothers forage, frees up reproductive capacity in ways that compound across generations. Your grandmother's existence, evolutionarily speaking, is a gift your ancestors gave you. Older children also cared for younger ones. Anthropological observation of modern hunter-gatherer groups, including research by Barry Hewlett among the AKA people of Central Africa, shows that multi-age child groups are universal in foraging societies. A 4-year-old and a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old spend most of the day together, with minimal adult supervision, learning by playing, by watching, by imitating the adults they will become. The 10-year-old knows how to comfort the 4-year-old because she was once comforted the same way. The knowledge passes not through instruction, but through lived experience, transferred body to body, generation to generation. There were no scheduled nap times, no screen time limits, no enrichment classes. Learning happened through imitation and through play that was indistinguishable from work. A child who watched an adult nap flint would pick up a stone and try. A child who watched someone weave grass into a basket would twist and braid whatever came to hand. By adolescence, young people in foraging societies already possessed the full suite of survival skills they would need as adults. Not because they were taught in a formal sense, but because they had been embedded in a community that practiced those skills every day. Failure was part of this. Children fell, children got hurt, children encountered insects and thorns and cold water and darkness. Ancient parents were not indifferent to this. They were deeply attentive. But the tolerance for risk was calibrated differently, because the goal was not safety in the moment, but competence across a lifetime. A child who was never allowed to fall never learned to catch themselves. Death was also more present. Infant mortality was high by modern standards. Researchers estimating prehistoric child mortality from skeletal evidence suggest that in some populations, roughly half of children did not survive to adulthood. This is not something ancient parents were numb to. Burials of infants and children at sites like Kafse Cave in Israel, dating back roughly 100,000 years, show deliberate placement, the use of ochre, and what appear to be grave goods, evidence of grief, of ceremony, of love expressed in the language of ritual. They mourned, they buried their children with care. They left marks in the earth that say, "This life mattered." What does any of this mean for you, exhausted in the middle of the night, holding a crying child and wondering how anyone has ever done this? It means you were not designed to do it alone. The isolation of modern parenting is not a personal failing, it is a structural one. Your nervous system and your child's nervous system both evolved inside a web of many hands, many voices, many heartbeats close by. The tiredness you feel is real, but the hunger underneath it for more hands, more help, more community is not weakness either. It is the oldest parenting instinct your species has. You are not bad at this. You are simply doing it with far fewer people than your body ever expected.